Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video we're going to be looking at the Play Arts Kai Halo 4 Red Spartan Soldier figure. Now, you know, if you saw my other two Halo 4 Play Arts reviews, that I absolutely love these figures, and this one is no different than the first two. It's an absolutely great figure. Let's see if I can say absolutely without stuttering. It is just really, really good. I can't say enough how much I'm happy to have it, how much I like it. So let's just get right into it. You'll notice that it's very, very similar to the blue one in that it's got the exact same overall design, and that was the Spartan Warrior, but there are a few tweaks to this one which are actually worth pointing out and worth noticing. First of all, he stands just almost exactly 9 inches tall. Of course, his legs aren't perfectly upright, but that'll give you a good idea. He's the same size as Master Chief and the Blue Warrior. He's also the same size as Sarah Palmer, which I'll review in the next video. So they're all just about 9 inches tall. They have an absolutely incredible paint job. You can see here all of the, let's see if I can get a good look at it, all of the little white detailing on the armor is just immaculate. There's really no complaints at all in that. Even the little star thing inside the UNSC logo, in between the U and the N, absolutely phenomenal. They did just an amazing job on this. The silver line work in there on the armor, the pouches, just everything, even the dark red on the other red, and the UNSC logo on the chest. Absolutely fantastic. The detailing on this figure is phenomenal. Excuse me, you really don't get better than this in an action figure, especially for, what are these, 65 bucks, something like that. You really cannot do better than that. So I'm absolutely amazed at how good these are. So I'm not going to talk about the paint anymore because, as you can tell, it's just great. It's got a nice pearlescent glossiness to it, so it looks like the armor, and it's got all the battle damage and everything that you would expect. So that's it for the paint. The sculpt is equally impressive. You can see it's got all the texturing, all of the under armor, under suit, whatever you call that type stuff. There is one little catch of red paint right there, which isn't ideal, but it's barely noticeable. So, you know, that's going to happen when you have mass-produced figures. But the sculpt is equally great, and you can see all the little texturing and detailing, the armor itself, all the little nooks and crannies, just absolutely great. Really can't stress enough how good these look, how accurate they are. Really, the only two complaints that are even somewhat validated in these figures are that the shoulders are a little bit too bulbous, but the only reason it's like that is because of the necessity to have the articulation. So if the chest was spread out more and the shoulders were smaller, which would make it a little bit more accurate, even though to me this doesn't look too bad at all, you'd lose a lot of the articulation. So the reason that is so you can bring the arm around like that, and you wouldn't be able to do that if you had the broader chest and the narrower shoulders. So I'm perfectly okay with that. And then some people say the hips are too wide, too big. Personally, I think that looks pretty darn good. I mean, you have the floating piece, we'll get to that in a second, but if you look at the Spartans in-game, this is pretty much how they're built. So just in an overview, this figure, I think, is really top-notch. Let's look at the articulation a little bit closer. We'll get to the accessories in a little bit. Excuse me. So the head, we have a double ball peg, which is the same as the ones we've already reviewed, except this one is a little bit more limited. If you look underneath the helmet, there's not as much of a gap between the neck and the helmet in there, so it's really tight to get it to rotate in some places. It does cock from side to side, but not as much as the Blue Warrior or Master Chief. So you are going to run into a little bit less mobility there for the head, but it's still more than enough. And you can get it to look up just a little bit, not a ton, but just a little bit, so that's good by me. The shoulders have the butterfly joint that we're used to from Play Arts Kai. These are pretty good. It swings up a little bit more than it does forward, which is the same as Master Chief and the Blue Warrior, but that's okay by me because it still allows the arm to get where it needs to go. You can see the disc here for the ball hinge in the shoulder that's on top of the butterfly joints, so full range of motion there. You have a bicep swivel right there. The armor is connected to the bicep, so it swivels just fine. Then you have the ball hinge that rotates at the bicep and at the forearm and is ratcheted. So that's also fully articulated. You can't get better than that. Then you have the same type of joint as the elbow in the wrist. So full ratcheting hinge, then a swivel at the wrist, or at the hand and at the forearm. So that is completely articulated again. The hands are interchangeable. They just pop off of the peg, give it a little twist, and it comes off. There's not too much of a catch there, so you don't have to worry about breaking anything. So here's the open hand for his left hand. You can see the detailing is absolutely great. Paint and sculpt. So that's the open hand, and here is the closed trigger hand. Equally impressive. And then you have the same two hands for the right side. You have the trigger hand, which is on the weapon, which he holds really well. The pistol, you kind of have to rotate a little bit to get it to sit in right. It's a little bit problematic, but once you get it situated, he holds it just fine. And then you have the open hand, which is just like the other one. So while we're here, we might as well talk about them. We have the pistol, and if you'll notice, the peg hole is a problem. Just like on the other two figures, they glued the pegs in for some reason. So if you get it out without breaking it, you're lucky. My pistol peg, it appears to have broken off in there, but it doesn't really look broken off on here. Luckily, the thicker of the two ends, you can kind of see the one on the right there is a little bit thicker. You can still get that to peg in there pretty well if you use some force, and so that's still perfectly usable, so I'm not going to worry about it. If it does break off, though, you might have to drill that out. Like I said, we'll talk about the weapons now. We also have the suppressor, the Forerunner assault rifle, which looks fantastic. It's got so much sculpt work in there, many different shades of silver and gray, and then it has all the yellow accent pieces. Looks absolutely great. It's perfectly accurate. It also has the peg hole and the peg. Now this peg is a little bit different. It's got the fat piece on the end and a peg that sticks off of that, which broke off inside. So that is going to be a little trickier to fix if I wanted to, and it also has the yellow end on there. So it's a unique peg for this weapon. The only really good way to make this work after that breaks is to drill out the broken part and then either add a little bit on here or just sand this down to make it peg back in. I'm probably not going to worry about it, however. I'll just leave it like this and have him hold the weapon. Unfortunately, they do keep gluing those in there, so they are going to keep breaking unless you're really lucky. So he can also hold this weapon just as well. The hands are a soft material, so you'll be able to get them around there, no problem. As you can see, the hand fits perfectly. So very good work with the accessories. It is kind of big though. The weapon alone, which is accurate, but still, it's about 4.5 inches long, so almost half as tall as the figure. So that's going to make for a pretty cool display piece. It's a big weapon. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the rest of the articulation. The upper torso is on a double ball peg, so it can swivel. Let's zoom out a little bit. It can swivel and rock from side to side. Pretty much anything you want to do, it can do. It is a little bit less mobile than the Blue Warrior or than Master Chief. The armor seems to be closer into the body. It doesn't have as much of a gap, so that's going to limit the articulation just a little bit. And then for the lower torso, we've got that three-way ball peg that goes up into there and then into each hip. So this lower torso has tons of articulation. Anything you want to do with that, you can do. It is not restricted at all because the groin piece is floating soft material, which is good by me because it hides all the articulation and still serves its purpose. So the hips then are, like I said, there's a ball peg. It's an upside down T. The hips are connected to their own ball pegs, except these are ratcheted, so they ratchet forward and back. Not as tight as the blue one, but still tight enough, so that's good. And then side to side as well. Still pretty tight, but not too tight. And then the ball peg itself rotates, or the thigh rotates around the ball peg. So really good articulation there. Really pretty much anything you want to do, again, you'll be able to do it. The knees have double hinges, they're ratcheted, and they do have the kneecap with the armor on them. But even for the Play Arts figures, these look pretty good, but they still do look kind of ugly. So what I would recommend is you leave the lower leg in place and just articulate it from the top joint. It looks a little bit better that way, I think, but do it however you like and you'll be okay. The knees still need a little work from Play Arts, I think, but they work well. I mean, you get all the articulation you want. but they're just a little bit ugly. So that's one of the hiccups, I guess, with the Play Arts figures. But we're gonna have to live with it. And then the ankles are the same as the elbows and the wrists. It's a ball hinge that swivels at the shin and in the foot, so you can end up getting the foot in any pose you want just by rotating the ball hinge, and that's pretty good. That's the way I like it. And the hinge actually pegs in at an angle so that you can rotate the foot, kind of like the new Marvel Legends, if you're familiar with those. It gives it an ankle rocker in addition to the hinge itself. And they got rid of the swivel, which I hated that they put that on there on the Blue Warrior, and I think it was on Master Chief as well. They got rid of that swivel cut joint that didn't really serve a purpose, so I'm super happy about that. While we're here, I might as well show you the immaculate paintwork for the logo on the leg. Didn't point that out earlier. This one has a different one, which is accurate. I checked last night in the game, so if you're worried about accuracy, these figures have it. You will not be disappointed. They are absolutely great figures. And they come with one other bonus thing, which I'm going to mention right now. We're going to set this down and show you this. Inside the packaging, you will find underneath the blister a base that you have to take out of this blister here and put together. The instructions for that are on this side. You can see here what it would look like eventually, and it's adjustable up and down, and it has hinges and things on there. So plenty of options for posing if you want to use that. The figures are great for balancing and posing, so you probably won't need it. I'm not going to use it personally. And then over here you could just see how you're supposed to swap out the weapons and things. And I don't know if you're technically supposed to pull out the pegs. Maybe that's why they're gluing them into the weapons, but I'm going to pull them out even if they keep breaking because I don't want pegs on my weapons. So that's really the biggest issue with these guys, is just the weapons pegs. But I'm not too worried about it. So there it is, guys. There's the red Spartan soldier from Halo 4 from Play Arts Kai. Absolutely great figure. I highly recommend it. 100% awesomeness right here. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the Sarah Palmer review and some other figure reviews and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.